Graniola. This is the Graniola channel, and I'd like to tell you a folk tale. An often repeated story is about parents who have a child that they dearly love, but who doesn't look the way their society thinks she should. This is the case in the story of the singing frog. A couple who owned a vineyard had one small daughter. They loved her very much and tried to make her very happy, but even though she would have liked to have gone to school or played with other children, they decided that neither of these things were going to happen. This was because of the way she looked. She looked exactly like a frog. Her skin was green and covered in bumps. They were afraid that if other people saw her, they would make fun of her, and that would hurt her feelings. So they decided to keep her away from anyone else. Father and daughter spent most of their days contentedly together in the vineyard. While the parent tended to the vines, his little one hopped about the arbors and sang songs which she made up. She had the most lovely voice, and she never tired of singing, nor did her father ever tire of listening to her. One day a handsome young prince was riding his horse near the place where the two of them were together. He stopped and said to the old man, "I have never heard such a beautiful voice. Who is that singing?" The old man pretended that he couldn't hear because he didn't want to tell the stranger about his frog daughter. The other repeated his question a little more loudly, but the father, who was ashamed of the way his daughter looked, answered that no one was singing. The prince rode away, but he returned the next day asking the same question. Again, the old man just shook his head and didn't answer. The prince continued, "I couldn't sleep last night for 1 second. I have never heard such a beautiful, beautiful sound in my life as the singing of that girl. I feel quite certain that she must be an extraordinary person. And if I could see her now, I would marry her immediately and take her home to be presented to my father, the king." "Well, we'll see about that," answered the old man, and he called to his daughter to join the two of them. "Here she is. She's my own daughter, and I love her dearly, even though she looks exactly like a frog. I don't care what she looks like. Listening to her singing makes me the happiest person in the world. If she agrees and you give us your blessing, I would very much like to take her as my bride." The girl accepted his proposal with a short and lovely song. "My father has asked that myself and my 2 brothers come to the castle with our brides tomorrow, and that each maiden bring with her the most beautiful flower that she can find. Will you come with me tomorrow, and will you bring a flower with you?" Again, the frog girl sang her agreement. This song was longer than her first answer because she added, "I would not like to shame you by hopping into the castle. Would you be so kind as to send me a snow-white cock so that I might ride in to meet your father?" The prince promised that he would, and before nightfall the cock was waiting outside the little frog's house. The next morning she was awake and watching as the sun rose above the horizon. "Good morning, sun. I'm very happy to see you again. I need your help. Could you please weave a beautiful dress for me out of your golden rays so that I will be presentable to go to meet the king in the castle?" It only took a few moments for the sun to wrap her in a spectacular golden dress created with sparkling rays of sunshine. She picked a stalk of wheat before she mounted the cock, and then the two of them hurried off to the castle. When they arrived at the palace gates, the guards, seeing that she was a frog, did not want to let her in. But when she explained that she was the bride of the youngest prince, they opened the doors for her. The second that she came into view of the prince and his father, a bright flash of sunshine blinded everyone for a few moments, and when they had all regained their sight, before them they saw a beautiful young maiden in a golden dress on a white horse. The king, who was normally in total control of any situation, was startled for a moment, but he came to his senses quickly. "I'm so happy to have you here with your 3 new brides. Today is the day I'm going to announce who will take over the crown when I retire. Having all of you here with me at this moment will help me to make my final decision. I would like to see now what flowers the young maidens have brought for me." The first held out a rather magnificent rose, but the king barely looked at it before turning to the second girl, who held a carnation. "Puh, this will never do," he said, shaking his head. When he turned to the singing frog girl, he saw that she was holding a stalk of wheat. Ah! He took the spear in one hand and offered her his other hand so that she would stand next to him. It seems to me that this young person understands the value of being useful. This is an all-important trait when one is ruling over many subjects. Therefore, she and my youngest son shall inherit my throne. After that day, the girl returned to her frog-like form, and the prince and the king and all of the subjects thought she was just the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. Because, after all, now she was the future queen. This is a tale that is told in Slovenia. Until 1991, Slovenia was the northernmost of 6 countries that made up what was called Yugoslavia when I was growing up.